We know that the South African economy has a structure of an advanced economy, where more services are produced than goods. Sectors like manufacturing, mining and agriculture make up a small share of total output. A recent report shows some interesting employment numbers that I want to share. What we know about employment in South Africa comes from two big surveys that Statistics South Africa undertake: the Quarterly Labour Force Survey and the Quarterly Employment Statistics. The new BER report uses employment equity data that employers have to submit to the Department of Labour and provides a useful benchmark for the other data sources. There are a lot of interesting things to note. The QLFS puts the number of formally employed people in 2022 at around 10.8 million. The employment equity data covers 7.2 million of them. Of that 7.2 million, it's interesting that 70% is employed by large firms that employ more than 500 people. Manufacturing and retail and wholesale trade employ about 1.7 million people. Unemployment is concentrated amongst the very large firms in the banking sector and retail sectors. In contrast, it's the small and medium firms that play a prominent role in the manufacturing sector. In retail, wholesale and trade, the mega firms that employ more than 2,000 people account for 60% of employment. My students would now ask, what about those other service sector jobs? Where do the dog walkers, YouTubers and influencers come in? Unfortunately, there's very little hard data out about side hustles, but there are some interesting examples out there. The Marginal Revolution blog collects examples of those new service sector jobs. There are a lot of examples from Japan that reflects their unique culture. For example, some workers say they've been harassed by their boss if they try to resign, and now you can pay a company that helps you to quit your job. If you don't like eating out alone, you can hire a so-called do-nothing guy that accompanies you and listens to your stories but does not initiate conversation. In Tasmania, you can apply to become a wombat walker. There's no pay, but the tourism board pays for travel and accommodation. In the US, it can be big business to be a professional bridesmaid, and the maid of honor speech is charged extra. There's something similar in China, but there it's very important that the bridesmaid is unmarried and not taller than the bride. Then there are the consultants you can hire to compile your wedding day hashtag. There is some fun South African examples. For example, a guy from Mozambique who lives in Soweto, and he writes and shares revenge songs. If you had a bad business partner or unfaithful spouse and need to let the world know, you can pay him to write a song and he sends it to you on WhatsApp to share with the world. Not everyone is Mr. Beast, but there are some interesting services economy jobs out there. Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Economics Weekly with me, Waldo Krugell. Drop a comment or question below and join me again for next week's episode as we look at news that makes our economy tick.